Now yesterday I uploaded a video about cut and unused content in Splatoon 3 and it did way better than I thought. Alright, just under 24 hours and it's already at like 5,000 views, so that kind of threw me off guard a little bit. And I was gonna do some more cut content for Splatoon 1 and 2 as well, but then I found even more content for Splatoon 3. So everything in the last video, I thought that was it, but not even close. We still have a lot more. So I'm going to make a second video about the cut Splatoon 3 content before moving on to the others. This first one is kind of, this might put me on a list. So for some reason in the Splatfest world premiere for Splatoon 3, the Inkling Girl model had rendered underwear and only the Inkling Girl model. This was removed in the full game. As you can see here, it's just blanked out, but there used to be actual fully rendered underwear here. I'm not really too sure why that's the case, or if I should be even talking about this. This might put me on a list. But yeah, for some reason that's there. We have some unused facial features also. You see at the top here, freckles, and then at the bottom here is like scars across the eye. Not really too sure why they took these out. Maybe because it would be very hard to see since it's already kind of hard to notice, especially the freckles here, and there's only these two options. But it's pretty cool that we are going to have even more character customization. There's also multiple different eyebrow shapes and pairs that were also cut from the game. We had two for each Inkling Boy, Inkling Girl, Octoling Girl, and Octoling Boy, so they all had their own different eyebrow shapes, which was pretty cool. And the dummy Splatfest image from Splatoon 2 with the egg and omelet also returns in this game, but has an added boiled egg for a third option, you know, to go along with deep cut since it has 3 members. It's kind of funny that they brought this dummy image over and even added onto it. So maybe perhaps we will finally get this Splatfest, because neither in Splatoon 1 or 2 there was a Splatfest for like over easy egg or omelet and then just boiled eggs. So maybe we'll have this as an actual Splatfest sometime soon within the next year, since we still have about a year left of content to make. And even the art style of this banner is in like Splatoon 1 art style, which hasn't been used in 2 or 3. So they brought this all the way over from Splatoon 1 and they've had it in every game so far, which is kind of funny. Now this one I think is interesting. There are these 2 unused files for textures of Judd and Lil Judd, and by the size of them, it looks like maybe we were supposed to get banners of Judd and Lil Judd respectively. How we would unlock it maybe just be through shellout or catalog like any other banner, but it looks like we were supposed to get Judd and Lil Judd banners. Maybe we'll still get them later on. And the funny thing is that these were added in when the first wave of DLC dropped. So these weren't in the game before then. So as of version 3.0.1, when the first DLC wave dropped, these files were added into the game. So maybe we will get these as actual banners later on at some point, because it would make sense to have Judd and Lil Judd banners. We have all the idols, alright, and the other like important characters are Judd and Lil Judd, and we don't have them as banners yet. So it's kind of interesting to see those. Now, probably my favorite part is there are quite a bit of unused animations, specifically for Shiver and just regular Inkling or Octoling. Shiver has 3 unused animations, and these were going to be used for Splatfests. Not Splatfests, these were going to be used for the Anarchy Splatcast. So here's the animation right here, and it's notable that Frye and Big Man don't have any like equivalent animations like this. It's just Shiver, and this animation was actually scrapped early on as it only has the major poses mapped out. So this one is relatively unfinished and was scrapped pretty early. Next, this animation is identical to the one she has in base game, but for some reason her hair is sticking up like this. We don't really know what it was used for, but this animation was removed from the files of the game at some point. Yeah, it's kind of weird and creepy. Interesting to see her hair up like that and seeing both of her eyes at once. And then the third one is similar to the second one. This is the pose she has after she completes the previous one, where she swings her arm and then she holds out her fan like this. But again, her hair is also pointed up. I'm not really sure why that was there. Maybe to like help render her face, and then it was put back down after. But this animation as well was also taken out of the files of the game. Now these ones, we have quite a few animations for when we win a 133-3x battle. And these animations are actually for, if you win one of those battles and you get the picture on the Frye, Big Man, or Shiver float, and we can select certain poses. These next animations are unused animations for poses for on the float. So I'm just gonna kind of play a little montage of them here so you can see all of them, because there's quite a few of them and they're not all too different or really anything to know. So I'm gonna just play them all back to back right here. And in the last video, I showed off a section of all of the badges for the specials and how some of them are different. But we have more badges that have also changed between the beta and the final versions. We have the Salmon Run badges. All of the boss salmonids have their render from Splatoon 2. All of the returning ones, at least. All of the new bosses that were introduced in Splatoon 3 just have a basic salmonid placeholder, with just each having different outlines. All the new ones you can see on screen right now, and we can see all of the beta versus the final ones here for all of the boss salmonids. A lot of their designs were changed, and they were all given a black outline to help make them more noticeable on the badge. And in speaking of badges, we have more, and these are actually from the story mode. We have some for Octavio, Captain Cuttlefish, Callie, Marie, and Mr. Grizz. All of these were also just given a black outline to make it more noticeable and pop out more on the banner. Also, the no chill emote icon was actually changed from the launch version onward. It was just the Inkling standing here normally, and then it was changed to what we have in the game now. Next, this one is pretty interesting. The lobby terminal in the lobby, of course, has a different design for the screen and for itself. We can see the beta design here, and even the screen itself was a lot different. You can see here that there are more likely rectangles instead of the squares we have for each section. And it looks like there might have been a scroll menu, because in the final game we have 8 here, and in the early design we only had 6 so far as we see. So they probably changed it to fit everything all on one screen and just changed the rectangles to squares, since it would be easier than having to scroll. And it just kind of wouldn't look that great if we had to scroll to get to the other menus. I like the one we have now. That looks a lot better. And I don't know if this is intentional, but the beta version, like the background, I guess, for it kind of reminds me of when a Splatfest is getting announced. The guy kind of has a like hazy green distorted TV kind of look. This kind of looks like that. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that was a pretty nice detail that I noticed. Next, we have an unused variant of the Splatfest pledge box. It looks incomplete due to lacking proper textures and using simplistic blocky geometry. So here's like an early render of the pledge box with the screen and everything. I think the screen looks different too. It looks more It looks like it's more bowing in instead of out like it does in the final game. I don't know if that's of any importance. But this next one kind of confused me a little bit. We have an extremely unfinished model of Splatsville during a Splatfest. While there are textures, none of them are directly applied to the model. So I don't even know what we're supposed to be looking at here. Obviously, this is supposed to be Splatsville, and I think these grates might be fences. I'm not really sure. Also, in the files of the game, we had some unused and unobtainable weapons, a lot of them being enemy weapons. But we have unobtained amiibo weapons, and these are actually pretty cool. And this, assuming it means what I think it means, this would have been a really cool addition to Splatoon 3. So the weapons seen on the Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2 amiibos are left in, completely functional. All of them are 200 points for special, a reoccurring theme for weapons never meant to be used in the game. So 200 points is just like a placeholder, I guess. But all of these amiibo weapons that we could have gotten, they function exactly the same as Splatoon 3, so I guess they're kind of just like skins for them. So the first one is basically the Splatoon 1 skin for the splatter shot we could have gotten from the orange Inkling Girl and blue Inkling Boy amiibos. Next was the same thing, but for Tentatek splatter shot we could have gotten from the Inkling Girl Lime Green amiibo and the Inkling Boy Purple amiibo. Third one is the splatter shot, but it's designed from Splatoon 2 that we would have gotten from the green Inkling Boy amiibo. And finally, the last one, the E-Leaders design from Splatoon 2 we would have gotten from the Octoling Girl amiibo. And here we actually have some unobtainable rival weapons. So the rival Octolings in the Return of the Mammalians in the story mode actually have their own weapon entries. So the weapons they use actually have their own weapon entries. I have some for the Blaster, Octobrush, Splat Dualies, Splat Rollers, Splatbrella, Octoshot, the Splatoon 3 Octoshot, and then Splatoon 1 and 2 Octoshot models as well, and Slosher. They each have their two different entries. I'm not really too sure why. A version 1 and a version 2. As well as the Inkzooka from Splatoon 1 has some code in the data. The Inkzooka special from Splatoon 1 is left over in the files with various traces of data left in the files. It has its own parameter set completely unique to Trizooka or any other special and is able to be loaded. When activated, it is able to throw bombs and move around, but crashes the game as soon as a shot is attempted to be fired. So you can actually have the Inkzooka in game, but you can't really use it because it'll crash the game, as it just said. Also, I wasn't able to download it, but there are some unused copies of the Splatoon 2 lobby music. If I can download it and somehow get it to play, I'll have it up right here. But there were three identical versions, one for the day, one for the night, and one for Splatfest. And this next one is actually very interesting. I like this one a lot. There were apparently 2 unused game modes, or 3 unused Salmon Run modes, like limited Salmon Run modes. So kind of just like Salmon Run Splatfests, or list the equivalents for those. There are 3 of them called Underground, Pair, and Contest. Underground is a harder version of Salmon Run with various changes. And the changes are every boss has 30% more HP and moves 30% faster. Alright, just that alone is just terrifying. And then 2 of the bosses that spawn will drop large golden eggs, roughly the same size as the golden eggs seen in Return of the Mammalian's final boss battle, which add 5 eggs to the counter each. And then the quota increases faster than regular, having a +3, +5, and +7 quota. Now unfortunately, Pear has no data within the files except for just the name. And the third game mode, called Contest, was later adapted into extra work starting with fresh season of this year. So one of these unused game modes we actually got reworked into extra work. So maybe at some point they'll add Underground, because that one actually seems really interesting. Okay, Underground would be so cool. This is kind of like a challenge mode, all right, kind of like Bringer of Chaos from Xenoblade 2, but for Salmon Run. That would be really cool. We actually have some unused badges for Pear and Underground. So here we can see the capsules for the Underground and Pear are different from what we have in game. And comparing the Pear and Underground badges, and the Underground badges are a bit darker than the Pear badges, at least for the bottom. And it looks like the bottoms are also more rounded too, so it's kind of like a higher view on these. For some reason, the only Pear badge is this yellow one over here on the left, is similar to the Underground badges, but all the rest of them kind of have damn near a straight line. So perhaps these were like cut early in development after they, you know, worked on all the Underground badges. They're like halfway through the Pear badges and it was like, yeah, you know what, let's just not use these anymore. And apparently there's data for an unused Splatfest. A Splatfest was accidentally uploaded to the game's BCAT system on December 2nd of last year instead of the spicy versus sweet versus sour Splatfest. However, a key for the Splatfest was never distributed, so it's impossible to access any of the data within it, only existing as a set of encrypted pack files. I actually have the file for the unused Splatfest, so if you want to look at the data and everything, it's going to be in the description if y'all want to look at that. And next we actually have some oddities for Nails. Now if you don't know who Nails is the shop owner for Not Couture alongside Gnarly Eddie. Gnarly Eddie is his employee, so the shop is actually run by Nails and Eddie is his employee. But he's that tiny little snail you can see next to Eddie's feet. And he actually has an eye texture that is never seen in game, and you know, we can't see it because he's always wearing his glasses. That's really about it for Nails, just that one little piece. He has an eye texture that goes unused that we never get to see. We also have some naming oddities for quite a few things. One of the city or plaza Inklings walking animations is known as Walk Plaza Harley Quinn. I don't know what Harley Quinn has to do with that, but maybe they had something for it. And internally, Respawn Punisher ability is known as Exorcist. Now, as far as I know, we don't really have an explanation for this or why it's called this, but I think it's probably a good idea that they changed it, because Exorcist just doesn't really sound like it would fit in a Splatoon game. Alright, exorcising the fucking cephalopod demons. But this was actually also in Splatoon 2. Respawn Punisher was also called Exorcist. So we're not really sure why that is. But the next one is about Splatana Stamper, and internally in the game's files it's known as Normal Splatana under the name Weapon Saber Normal, despite being considered a more advanced variant, since Splatana Wiper is the normal one and Stamper is like a modified version of that. So it's kind of funny that Stamper is referred to as the normal one in the game files. And Umami Ruins and Undertow Spillway's internal names are Factory and Temple respectively, despite Umami Ruins resembling an Egyptian temple and Undertow Spillway having factory elements. So I guess these names were just swapped somewhere by accident. Undertow looks more like a factory and Umami looks more like a temple. So maybe the names just got switched around. The latter name likely comes from the stage's inspiration, the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel in Kasukabe, Saitama, which is occasionally referred to as an underground temple. That one's actually kind of a cool detail. Now this next one Splatoon 3 was also supposed to have a different home menu icon, you know, as like the one we see here on the right. This is the one we have now with the 3 Inklings and Octoling, whereas it was going to originally be this one with the logo and just a bunch of stickers around it. And they most likely went with the one on the right to kind of be congruent with Splatoon 2, since for the Splatoon 2 home menu icon, it also has the 2 Inklings like butting heads together with the logo above it. So it's just to stay consistent with what we already have. Now there's quite a bit more of unreleased content, but a lot of it is just files and different file names and all that. And you know, I don't know anything about code. I can't read code. A lot of it is just different coding, like name, a bunch of other debug stuff. So that's not really worth going over, but I'm getting all of this from the cutting room floor. So if y'all want to look at all the debugs, or if y'all are more like code savvy than I am, y'all can come look at everything here. Again, link will be in the description. So I love looking at cut and unused content in games, especially for Splatoon. It's kind of cool to see a lot of ideas be reused, because some ideas here were actually reused. But yeah, that's really about it for Splatoon 3 cut content, at least for now. If I find any more, I'll make a video again if there's enough to make another video. But next, I'm gonna look into cut and unused content for Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 1. So I'm gonna do the whole series. All right, it's gonna be like a little mini series of going over unused and cut content. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool. My last video did very well, so y'all are definitely interested. So I'm gonna make some more for 2 and 1. But that's really about it for this video. So see you next mission and play some goddamn Splatty.